Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is starting to reject from this critical area of resistance after just recently pushing towards major liquidity that is sitting just above the price of Bitcoin, moving closer towards potentially a major breakout from this new price pattern I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside the fact that Solana is already now confirming a breakout above this very important area of resistance, while the price of XRP is still testing this critical level on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, the MACD indicator on this time frame is actually starting to regain a small amount of bullish momentum. But with that being said, we're still seeing somewhat weakness here. So of course, not really a lot of bearish momentum either, but also not a lot of bullish momentum. So relatively neutral for the price, basically lacking momentum to either direction, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, of course, we still have higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, which is still a bearish divergence to watch out for, telling us that we're likely going to see a period of basically a slowdown in the price, so a lack in bullish momentum. But if we see a bit of a breakout here above the previous all-time high, that can temporarily invalidate the bearish divergence. So maybe we see another leg towards the upside, but if the RSI is still sitting in lower highs below this previous high that we set back in December 2024, in that situation, there's still the possibility we could just form another bearish divergence later on in a few weeks or a few months from now. And so this is still something to pay attention to on the weekly time frame while the RSI is still sitting in lower highs. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, for now we're getting very close to possibly a new bullish crossover again in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so like I just said, on the weekly time frame, we're seeing some early signs of regaining some bullish momentum, but at least for now, we've not yet actually confirmed the new bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. So we're still waiting for that to confirm. But once again, if that confirms maybe in the next few days or so, that could be a sign that we're starting to regain some more bullish momentum, especially if we see a quick move towards the upside in the histogram within the MACD indicator, like what we saw these last few times here, obviously indicating a lot of bullish momentum. But for now, we're most likely a few days away from potentially confirming that bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, we're still forming this massive falling wedge pattern and getting very close to a possible breakout here for the price of Bitcoin. Because in case you're wondering, this line of support is still sitting in between around 100,000 to 101,000, and this line of resistance is sitting at just underneath 109,000. So ideally, we need to see a daily candle close above around 109,000 in order to actually confirm a breakout and confirm the price targets for this pattern. And in case you're new to the channel, the technical price targets based on this falling wedge pattern, if we first confirm the breakout above this line of resistance, in that situation, the first price target will be sitting at the top of the wedge, basically the all-time high at close to 112,000, around 111.5 to 112,000. And if we're taking a look at a measured move, a measured price target from the point of the breakout here at close to 109,000, that will set up a secondary price target at close to 119,000. So about a $10,000 move towards the upside from the breakout to that further price target here, which would be around a 9 to 10% move towards the upside. And so, for example, as always, not financial advice, but just an example of a breakout trading strategy. If, for example, we enter a long position after we first confirm the breakout here, personally, I would look at potentially taking some profits off the table, just slightly reducing the trade at the first price target here or any key points of resistance along the way. And then, of course, keeping most of the trade open and closing more of the trade closer towards the secondary price target. And then, of course, moving a stop loss further into profits as the trade moves further into profits in that situation. And so, once again, that's just an example of a trading strategy based on a breakout trade like this. But once again, this price target, both of these price targets are not currently in play because we've not yet actually confirmed a breakout above this line of resistance at close to 109,000. And so this is the time where you want to be set up ready to go to take the next trading opportunity in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link below this video, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $45,000 you can claim using the link below this video just by trading trading crypto. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get deposit bonuses. Like, for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your Bitnex account, but only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go right now using the link below this video to take advantage of these massive bonuses. And in case you're wondering, Bitnex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitnex as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses, and also a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your 2bit account. But once again, only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at this Bitcoin price chart right here on the daily time frame, we're still obviously in this sideways price range that we were in previously, in between support and resistance. So first of all, we have a lot of support at around 103,000 and also at around 98,000, and a lot of resistance really in between around 110,000 to 112,000. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 6-hour time frame, just now as I've recorded this video, the price of Bitcoin is starting to struggle and starting to reject from this important area of resistance in the short term, in between around 108.5k to 109,000. And obviously this is now perfectly happening exactly after we perfectly bounced from my exact area of support here in between around 106 to 107,000. So continue to expect a lot of support in that area. And if we were to break below 106,000, in that case, we have more support in between around 103.5k to 104k. And once again, when it comes to resistance, focus on this area in between 108.5k to 109,000, and also in between 110,000 to 110.5k. And considering the fact that we saw that recent bullish move towards this next point of resistance before actually seeing a further pullback, we no longer really have that inverse head and shoulders pattern actually forming here on the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, because technically speaking, we just recently confirmed a 6-hour candle close above the neckline, but we didn't really form a right shoulder. As we can see, we're pretty much flat. So if we're actually using that price action as the right shoulder, you can see that we don't really have a right shoulder at all. So we cannot really call this an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And so ultimately, I'll just be paying attention to support and resistance here in the short term. And of course, the momentum starting to slowly pick up in the bullish direction, but we're still not seeing a significant amount of momentum on the larger time frame. So keep that in mind. And overall, once again, pay attention to support and resistance in the short term to figure out where the price is most likely going to bounce from or struggle at or reject from. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, of course, one of the potential reasons as to why we just saw a bullish move here in the short term is because we're now moving closer towards that exact liquidity that I've been talking about for a while now on the channel over the last few days or so. Because in case you're new to all of this, usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity. Now, it's not 100% guarantee. Sometimes the price can move in the opposite direction, but oftentimes the price moves towards where there's a lot of liquidity to take out that liquidity. So for example, back here, we saw liquidity building below the price, and then we took out that liquidity to the downside with a short-term dump. And then close to a week ago now, a few days ago, we saw a bullish move to take out this upside liquidity here. And currently, and as I've been saying just over the last few days, we have liquidity building at close to 109,000, pointing towards potentially another short-term bullish move coming very soon over the next few days or so towards around 109,000 to take out that liquidity. So that's potentially what is just starting to play out right now. But remember, even if we have liquidity at around 109,000, we cannot ignore the fact that we have resistance in between 108.5k to 109,000. And so that's effectively what is happening in the short term. This liquidity at around 109,000 is acting as a magnet for Bitcoin, pulling the price towards around 109,000. But just before we can hit that $109,000 level, we have the resistance resistance starting at around 108.5k to 109,000. And so far, we're starting to struggle at that exact area as I've been talking about recently here on the channel. But overall, when it comes to the shorter term momentum, clearly we're starting to look a little bit more bullish than we are bearish, especially in terms of the MACD indicators slowly shifting back in the bullish direction on the larger timeframes here. And overall, of course, in the immediate short term, we're starting to form some higher lows and higher highs, which is some short-term bullish price structure. But ultimately, I'll not expect the next significant move towards the upside, a much larger move, until at least we see that confirmed breakout above around 109,000 and ideally above 110,000, because we'd also likely find a decent amount of resistance at around 110,000. Once we can start breaking some of these levels, then we can target these much higher prices in new all-time highs. And so those are all of the things that I'm looking at right now for Bitcoin and focusing on and what is influencing the price in the shorter term. And if we're taking a look at the price of Ethereum on the daily time frame, the price is once again perfectly bouncing from this retracement level, acting as support at just under 2.4k, around 2390 give or take, acting as the key support here in the short term. And if we were to see a confirmed break below around 2390 give or take, below roughly 2.4k, in that situation, the next significant support towards the downside is at close to 2.1k, which is pretty much exactly where we bounced from recently, as we can see. And when it comes to resistance, if we were to see a little bit more of a bounce here in the short term, expect some resistance at roughly 2.5k, but above that, the next significant area of resistance, major resistance, is really in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And technically speaking, on this daily Ethereum price chart, the bearish divergence is technically still active because we've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal to properly invalidate the bearish divergence. And so these are the things that are still influencing the price in the shorter term, alongside the fact that obviously Bitcoin also influences the price of Ethereum. So while Bitcoin is playing out this short-term pump here, the short-term bullish relief, this is influencing the price in the short term with this short-term bounce that we've seen over the last 1 week or so. But while the price is also still playing out the bearish divergence, we're lacking bullish momentum to cause a bit of sideways price action in the immediate short term. And considering the fact that Ethereum is always pretty much being influenced by Bitcoin, and considering the fact that this bearish divergence is still active, still influencing the price, I continue to expect this sort of price action, at least here in the short term for the time being, maybe over the next few days or so. And so honestly, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day for Ethereum. So getting straight into the price of Solana on the daily time frame, and what has changed for Solana over the last 1 day is we've now officially seen a daily candle close above this very important area on the price chart, which was sitting in between around 143 to 146 approximately. And we just saw a daily candle close confirm at roughly around 150. And so previously, this area in between 143 to 146 has been significant resistance, and more recently resistance here, and also previous significant supports. And so now that we've seen a confirmed breakout back above this area, for as long as we're now holding this area obviously as support, this is very good news, at least in the short term, for the price of Solana, and the first possible change in price structure from this bearish trend into possibly a bullish trend starting to form. Ideally, we need to see a little bit more confirmation here. It would be even better if we see some sort of retest of this area and flip it into new support. That would be strong confirmation that we're really starting to form some strong price structure pointing in the bullish direction on the daily time frame. But either way, of course, breaking out above a key level is a bullish signal either way once again. And the next resistance that I'll be watching is really at around 154 give or take, and above that we have more resistance at around 158 and significant resistance at close to 167. And there's also a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern forming if we were to see, first of all, more of a bullish relief closer towards around 165 to 168, somewhere around there. And then if we reject from somewhere around there, come back down towards roughly 146 to even around 150, somewhere around there, and then see a bounce and then another recovery back up towards around 167 and then break out above that area. Of course, that then would form an inverse head and shoulders pattern and would be a massive bullish price pattern with a bullish price target. But obviously, that's just pointing out a possible price pattern that is still in the middle of possibly forming, but in no way currently confirmed. So something to keep an eye on in case it continues forming here, but not something to act on, at least as of right now. And honestly, considering the fact that Bitcoin in the immediate short term is looking more bullish than it is bearish, it is obviously starting to regain a small amount of bullish momentum and ultimately playing out some short-term bullish price action. While this is happening for Bitcoin, this can help Solana and a lot of the altcoins. So considering what is happening with Bitcoin in the immediate short term, and considering Solana itself has just confirmed a breakout above a very very important level. Ultimately, I'm slightly more bullish than bearish when we're talking about the immediate short term here, which essentially means over the next few days or so, maybe over the next week, it is quite likely we could test some of these upper levels of resistance that I just mentioned earlier. And with that being said, taking a look at XRP on the 12-hour time frame, and XRP is now testing a very important level of resistance sitting at around 219 to 220, and we can see that this is exactly where the price is struggling in the short term, just like what we saw a couple of days ago. As we can see, we saw a perfect rejection from this exact level that I've been warning about since before the perfect rejection. But obviously this means that if we can ultimately confirm a breakout above that level, above around $2.20 with candle closes above that level and holding above that level, in that situation the next resistance is at roughly around 225 as the next point of resistance, and then above that we have some major resistance in between roughly 230 to 235. But for now, in the immediate short term, once again we're still struggling at close to 220, around 219 to 220. So right now that is still the level of resistance to focus on. And as for support, we have some major support at around $2.07, but really in between $2.05 to $2.10. In that range right there, I expect a lot of support for the price of XRP. And when it comes to the price structure in the immediate short term here, honestly, we're looking very neutral. We're basically in a bit of a sideways price range, as we can see. So yes, we can see short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but overall the price structure is relatively neutral, which means don't be surprised if we just chop around sideways for a little longer over the next few days or possibly weeks. But remember, also pay attention to what Bitcoin and a lot of the other cryptos are doing, especially Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin, for example, struggles around this point of resistance, maybe sees a short-term rejection, this could be a very likely scenario for XRP as well, basically repeating the same sort of price action Bitcoin is doing. But if Bitcoin ultimately breaks out here and continues this bullish move, that can also help assist the price of XRP. So even if you don't hold any Bitcoin and you're just in XRP or just in a certain altcoin, definitely at least just keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is most likely going to happen for a lot of the altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 12-hour time frame, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink as what I just said for XRP. We're basically in a bit of a short-term sideways price range between support and resistance after recently playing out a short-term bounce from the local lows. So for now, we have some major resistance at roughly 1360 to 1370. So for now, that is still the area to focus on where the price is most likely going to struggle at. And when it comes to support, we have a lot of support in between around 1260 to 1280. So expect the price to be supported, expect the price to bounce around that area on the price chart. And we also have a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern here, but ultimately for this to actually confirm, we need to see a breakout very soon, as in over the next 1 or 2 days at the latest, to actually confirm that possible inverse head and shoulders pattern here. And a confirmed breakout essentially would need to confirm above around 1370 with candle closes on the 12-hour time frame above 1370 to confirm that. But if we take too long, for example, if we just spend another week chopping around sideways in this sideways price range, then we do not have an inverse head and shoulders pattern at all. But honestly, Chainlink in the immediate short term is kind of lacking momentum either way. We don't really have a lot of bullish or a lot of bearish momentum. Technically, the larger trend is still bearish, but in the immediate short term, it's quite likely we could just chop around sideways for a little longer in this sideways price range between support and resistance. But this time in the market that we're in right now is the time to be prepared. It's the time to get set up, ready to go to take the next trading opportunity in the crypto market. And once again, if you want to get set up, ready to go to take the next trading opportunity, use the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what direction the price is going, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.